Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, today we're under heat advisory, so it's a perfect time, I think, to do a video on basically staying safe in the heat, trying to avoid heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and some simple means that you can use to help protect yourself while you're out there in the scorching sun throughout your day. So stick with me, guys. We'll get right into that one. Typically, if I'm going to be out in the sun, I take in consideration that usually your first line of defense against the element is going to be your clothing and stuff. So typically I got my sunglasses on, I got a hat, and I wear these shirts here because they're wicking material and they help dry your sweat. And typically also, very important to me anyway, I'll typically wear some kind of wide brim hat if I know I'm going to be out in direct sun for a while. uh, this is pretty nice because it puts a little microbiome cooler air around your head due to the shade that this thing kind of creates all the way around. So it keeps your ears safe from the sun getting burnt. And this one, which I recommend, uh, get your hats have venting. This one's got a mesh all the way around it, which helps keep, because you lose a lot of heat from your head, which is a bad thing in very cold weather, but kind of a useful thing in very hot weather. So the top being completely covered blocks a lot of sunlight and heat, solar radiation from putting a lot of direct heat on the top of your head, and this mesh allows heat to vent off from the sides. So yeah, this is a very, very handy piece of gear to have on you. Don't have to be this hat by any means. I think this is just a Realtree. Yeah, just a cheap Realtree hat I think I found at Walmart several years back. But worth its weight in gold on a hot blazing day. On this next one, it's kind of a no-brainer, but super, super important to carry some kind of water with you. Now, I kind of like these relatively affordable Ozark Trail insulated vessels. I've had this one for many, many years, as you can see from all the dents in it. Hopefully you can from the trying to beat the sun from glaring on the guys, but it's cutting through the trees. This is a pretty simple deal. It's one of the smaller ones, and this typically would ride around in my dump truck with me at work, or if I was engaging in cutting brush or blacktop or any of them sorts of jobs. Something like this, or if not a bigger one. And the main reason I like these so much is I typically would fill this up with a quarter of ice and the rest of it with water. To have the colder water to consume is really good because it helps your body's your internal core temperature drop a little bit if you're drinking fairly cold liquids. That's so one of these, super highly recommended. Like I said, I'm not going to debate brands in this video. You know, if even you got I usually carry red and white Igloo one, pretty cheap one. I think it's like 15 bucks, something like that maybe. Had it for many, many years too, and that thing works like a champ. But having water to take with you in the first place, I think, is very crucial in figuring out how much water you need, how long you're going to be out in the heat. You know, if you're going to be out there literally all day, man, it's time to maybe to break out a big cooler, fill that thing full of ice, if not ice, save a bunch of used bottles like soda bottles, water bottles, Gatorade bottles, fill them 3/4 of the way up with water, stick them in your freezer, let them freeze, and you can use that in a cooler to keep other things you put in the cooler nice and cool. Plus the benefit of that, if you got stuff you don't want getting wet. But nevertheless, having access to cold liquids is really important. Now this little guy going on along with the vessels, whereas no, it's not very much water. This is a Stanley flask, but it's small enough I can literally just throw this in a pocket, my back pocket. And on really hot days, and I'm going to be out and about, I tend to, at least at the very minimum, carry this. You know, it's pretty well constructed. It's tough, durable. even if it gets warm, you know, I definitely prefer my water cold, but having some liquid to put back in my body is pretty crucial. So so out really hot days and stuff, if I'm just going to be out maybe piddling, or if I'm just simply doing that sun, doing some videos for everybody, I'm at least going to have this in my back pocket. That way, you know, I've got access to some kind of fluids. Okay, now this one here, pretty simple, and I don't know if a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people thought about it, but you just don't really think to take something like this with you, because we don't really associate it with, you know, hot, dry weather. It's a simple umbrella. It's not your traditional protection that you'd think about, but having this just to block the sun's rays off me if I need a break, it's pretty handy for that. And try to get that, there we go, that took the glare off my face. But yeah, something as simple as this umbrella, and this is a lightweight, cheap one. But the reason I got the small one out here versus a average size one was something smaller. It's a bit easier to pack. That way, you know, you're more likely to carry it if it's not an inconvenience. So just having this out there, take it with you, you know, especially, you know, say you're working outside and maybe out in the hayfield or whatever have you, you know, drag this thing along with you, throw it in the seat of something, transportation, to get to where you're going to be at. You have access to it. And if you don't have access to air conditioning or anything of the like, you just need a break from the intense rays of the sun, this will absolutely help you. And then, you know, as we also, I like to mention, you know, often we're going to run underneath the scenario for survival and such. You know, there could be a situation come up where you don't have access to any kind of modern amenities, and you're on the move, and you're dealing, you know, living out of a pack. That right there could really come in handy, not just in case, you know, just a random rainstorm or something of the nature, but, you know, helping you get a break from intense heat if you have to be out traveling in the sun. And of course, now we since we're talking about the sun and everything, having some kind of sunblock could be very, very good to have. Protect your skin. Sun cancer is a thing. I mean, excuse me, skin cancer is a thing from the sun. But being burnt really, really sucks, especially if you're in a crappy situation to begin with. You know, for running under the scenario, you know, whatever it may, you know, we had a EMP go off, you know, rule of outlaw, all those acronyms, whatever, you know, scenario you want to run under, that could force you out on your feet, and you have long distance to travel, and you're going to be potentially exposed to the sun. Something like this, and this spray bottle here actually lasts for quite a while. But that's something to definitely keep in mind. Get something that's water and sweat proof, by the way. That way, because you're going to be out, you're going to be exerting yourself quite a bit, and you'll sweat through your sunblock pretty fast that way. So definitely keep this one in mind, guys. I mean, even if it's a smaller container with your normal sunblock cream, just something, you know, to help get it on your nose, your cheeks, and over your ears, maybe your exposed forearms or whatever you're going to have exposed. Try to have you at least a little bit on hand. All right, this next one, a little bit more of the gadgety type stuff, which I don't recommend that you put this to the extent that you're going to, you know, this is going to be something you have to rely on. Having something like this battery powered fan here, it's a luxury, and it's a nice kind of emergency thing. Now, I'll use an example of this, since we're running under a scenario, you know, bad stuff has happened and we're out and we're having to do a lot of walking, force march, whatever it may be. Having this, you're having that point where you've been in the sun for a very long time, and, you know, you're getting, you know, getting near that heat exhaustion phase. So this would be something you'd use intermittently to help give you that extra relief. You know, it's real hot and muggy. You hadn't had much breeze, and that super sucks because your body can't regulate its heat very well because your sweat will not dry. So having let me get a blow of my hair there. This is decently powerful, and of course, it's obviously made to hang around your neck so the air can blow up around your carotid arteries. There's a decent little breeze. Now this on full blast, I think it only lasts somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 hours. It's got 3 speeds on the lowest setting. I believe you can get almost 6 hours out of this thing. And whereas, like I said, I wouldn't get to where this is something you have to rely on. It's just a nice little thing that you can use intermittently to help you along your path. And I want to say something in conjunction with this. Now, everybody knows the little trick. You take your scarf, handkerchief, whatever you got, get it wet, wrap it around your carotid arteries. And as your blood flows through there, you'll get some cooling through conduction because the cloth at that point with that water is colder than the surface, the area around it, plus your body's skin core temperature. Now here's the deal with that. Now this will put me in mind of a lot of these swamp heaters they try to sell out there, and they're fine if you live in Texas or Arizona with real low humidity, but that type of cooling only works to a limited degree out here. And I bought those blue, supposed to be these cooling rag things that are made to get wet, put around there, and it produces evaporative cooling. So as the moisture is wicked away and dried from, say, this piece of cloth, that naturally creates cooling. So now here's the deal. Let's say it's 100 degrees out and it's 70+% humidity, no breeze. The only cooling you're going to get is to the point where your body warms the liquid up that's on this, say this, just this rag here, until it meets outside or your skin temperature and stuff, then it's going to not do the cooling anymore. So you'd have to reapply fresh water to it frequently. So keep that in mind, and that's going to segue into the next part that I'm going to talk about here. The next part that I want to get into, obviously, just in general, is water. Very vital, very important. Now here's something to consider too. Let's say you got all the preparations made, you got all the water you need, you're chugging it. It's a fact that you got to be careful with that, because as you're sweating, you're losing all kinds of minerals, salts, electrolytes is leaving your body. And if you're hardcore chugging water, that's actually going to flush a lot more of those things out of your body through your kidneys into your bladder, and you'll urinate it out. So having something, now I didn't bring an example of it today just due to the fact that there's too many options out there, but the easiest one to carry, or I'll say 2, are those little packets of sports drinks mix. Has electrolytes, salts, and all that in it. Have a small fistful of those, maybe 4 or 5. Keep them in a small container that you can keep with you, or for emergency's sake, keep 1 or 2 in one of your pockets just to have. They make salt tablets, and those things have been around for a very, very long time. Militaries use them quite a bit. Those will help. Bouillon cubes. You got a chance to get some warm water, hot water, drop one of them in there, have a nice flavorful drink. And that's just simply to get that nutrition. There's electrolytes, there's minerals, there's salts back in your system. You can actually compromise your heart without all those things. The potassium, calcium, all those things are highly important for your heart, maintaining itself properly. So I highly recommend, like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving anybody medical advice, so you do your own research on that, and if nothing else, literally talk to your own doctor. Find out what's the best game plan for you to have something on you to keep your system fully charged, just in case you're in those situations. But now the segue was primarily into water. Either way you go about it, you got to have it. It'd be nice if you have those little extra packets or something similar to keep your body properly, charged up with what it needs. But in the situation we're doing that, without rule of law, EMP, all that stuff, whatever, you're forced to go out on your foot. You got your pack, you got your gear and stuff, and as you travel, and now obviously we're talking specifically about, the blazing sun and stuff. If you can stay, possibly, hopefully your routes to wherever it is you're bugging out to, or an alternate place to stay. Maybe you're just going to meet up with friends or family. You've got this plan put together. Something happens, we're meeting at so-and-so's place, or whatever the place is, and, you have to go on your foot game because of the chaos. Having a good route plan for the seasons is real important. Now, we're just going to strictly talk about summer here. If you can, as you can see, I'm in a slightly heavily wooded area at the moment with a cleared out path for the side-by-side and all that. But if you can stay in the shade as much as possible, while you're out walking and stuff, Wild Loud does amazing, because it's roughly, obviously depending on wind speed and all that, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5, 8, and in extreme cases, depending on elevation, you can have a variance of temperature, in around that, clear up to around 5 degrees difference. But having the ultraviolet rays being blocked, that that just sits that direct heat pounding you when you're out in direct sunlight, the temperature variance is really nice, but the real relief is your body and your skin not being bombarded with ultraviolet rays. And if you can, and this definitely may not be a thing that's possible, but hopefully you can, rig your route around streams, creeks, and rivers, as that will give you access to shade, usually, because a lot of them places you'll have at least some kind of wooded area, but you'll have access to water. And that's why I brought this out. Now, this is just representation of a metal vessel to be able to boil water in. And I know blazing hot heat, it really kind of sucks to have to make a fire, and the situation may dictate that the fires could actually put you in danger by revealing your location. So here's just the thing to have. Now, if we got our kit, it's not a problem. We probably got multiple vessels, but just to have a filter. If I have to, I can lay down on my stomach and slurp it right out of the source. I'd rather have a vessel to put it in than drink out of. So if you can't boil your water, and this is just an example, of you can have either kind you want that, is your favorite kind of filter. Now, if you were packing real light and you weren't expecting trouble, you may not have your full kit, and that's just why, pardon me, I put this down to reset the camera. This little combo right here, or this is just representation of a vessel at this point. It could be a bottle, I'm just saying vessel, some kind of material that you can use to pre-filter the water to put in the vessel. The filter then to consume the water in said vessel. That 3-piece combo is pretty nice. It allows you to move with great expediency, and you don't have to worry about the potential of revealing your location, or even if that's not a factor, just the time it takes to get excuse me, if you say you don't have a small isobutane stove of some variety, and then you're just wanting to not necessarily use it and save resources by, say, a twig burning stove, or just making a small fire, to boil your water. It's going to take time, is what I'm saying. You're going to time and resources. So having some kind of filter can really save on both of those things. I mean, this is just one that's a really convenient EDCable filter, 50 gallons as is, and it comes with an extra filter that pops in right here. And with that one, you can get 100 gallons. That'll go a long way for such a short package. And really good filters are really worth the wait. It's one of them pieces of kit that I really won't argue against. It's like, everybody says, well, I think you should have a water filter. I'm like, that's a really good idea. And that Yellow Jacket just tried to fly in my ear hole. Anyway, back on topic here. Basically, all I'm trying to say is, I guess, I'm sorry, guys. I know I kind of get kind of rambly. Always approach everything the basics and the minimum amount that you do need to be safe. Like even the hat I'm wearing now, or this, it can be turned into a makeshift fan, get a breeze going. Because typically out here in West Virginia, it is so hot and muggy. Good lordy, it is muggy, and that makes it rough to. What I do? Piss off another Yellow Jacket nest? Starting to think so. It's the humidity. Your body's sweat can't dry. Like even this wicking shirt I got here, if it is really hot and it's high humidity, even this wicking shirt will not work very well at all if there's not some kind of breeze going on. So without the airflow to come through to evaporate my sweat, which is how we cool our bodies, is from evaporatives, from our sweat evaporating off our bodies. Yeah, I'm starting to think I may have riled up another nest, guys. Let me move this before I get lit up. All right, sorry about the interruption there, guys. Just not a big fan of getting abused by Yellow Jackets. But anyway, where I was getting at, I'm trying to close the video out here, and sorry for the rambling, guys. But basically, get the minimum that you're sure you need. Do some research, figure out what kind of container you can carry, you're comfortable carrying, where you're going to go. Do you have access to any other resources like water, shade, shelter? Make sure you got something to protect your skin, some kind of, like I said, hat, at the very least a ball cap, but ideally wide brim hat with some ventilation. That way you can have this microclimate of shade around you. But outside that, some very basic useful things. Like I said, very small EDCable water filter. That way, if you do find some cruddy water, at the very least, you can get some water into your system and replace what you've lost through sweat. All right. So with that, guys, now this could be a super in-depth video. I mean, you could stretch this video in a couple hour long easy if you went over every tiny little detail. And as usual, I can't really do that because if I did that, no one's going to watch it. But this is just to get the idea in your head. And from here on out, you can do your own research, kind of figure out, okay, I've dealt with this crap factor in the past. Now, if I'd had this, and this, or whatever may be the case, it would have made it so much better. That's kind of how to approach it. So encouraging you all to do further research, figure out what your personal needs are, and it's always going to be a compromise between survival and comfort. Just keep that in mind. The biggest thing is when dealing with the heat is not to die from heat exhaustion, stroke. So keep that in mind. So with that, guys, thank you very kindly for watching. I'll see you all in another video, and stay safe out in the heat.